Hey, Bob. Let's turn your. Hey, Bob.
Yeah. Can you
Can you?
hear me? Oh, I got to. I'm
Yeah,
on. I'm on.
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just fine.
Can you
At the golf
lower
course.
your camera down so we
Can
can
you
see
what?
your face more? We can't see we can see only half your face. So
Oh, there we
there we
go.
go. Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, do you
You got, you got a beautiful golf course behind you.
I I hear you. So, anyways, I think the participants are in. This is for those that are attending here. Oh, let's see. Those that are attending here, this is the first webinar we've done. We've done virtual meetings before, so it's kind of different when you can't see the people. So I want to make sure that that those that are participating can see. Okay, great. Thanks, Rich. Fantastic. I was looking for that for one person to say yes, we are live here, Bob.
Okay, good.
Anyway, so we got about 5 minutes or so before we start with everybody joining in and that and so forth. And so I appreciate those that have joined in earlier for us. But anyway, so Bob and I, we'll get into the webinar here when other people join us here in about 4 minutes. But Bob and I were on our LA exchange group earlier, and some old faces popped up, huh, Bob?
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
think
gentleman had taken my class 48 years ago.
yeah, it
My
makes you feel
goodness.
young, huh?
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, I know, I know, I know. It was interesting how people are coming out of the woodwork. This whole now. Oh, thanks, Ted. Ted can see us too. Great. Um, yeah, though how the whole world has changed and gone to this format, which in some aspects is really good because people like yourself and others are able to attend these meetings and share your knowledge where you're not able to travel. You know.
Well, the thing is, it would be nice for me years ago when I was living in different countries, is that you don't have to go wait for 2 hours to get on a telephone and all that. And we didn't, faxes were just coming in. With this Zoom, you could live any place in the world you want.
Yeah, and not even in the world. I think you could probably be out of space. I think it's satellite controlled, right?
Is that right? Is
We're
that
not there
right?
yet. You're not into selling lots on the moon yet, right?
I'll be done.
Yeah, that's a
It
new
would be
formula,
a
right?
huge, yeah, new formula. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it'll open up the world now, Mike. And so you're not restricted to one political environment. Like you can gamble in Nevada, but you can't in California.
Right.
It's a different law. So if you can't do something in one country, do it in another country.
Right.
It's the
Right.
same idea, but it just will open up things immensely.
Oh, I agree. And you know, I what I'm so impressed with you is a lot of people know my dad on here, and just the getting him to understand how to answer a smartphone is a chore at times. And here you're popped right up, and I'm working on Paul Winger. I'm working on
Uh,
Paul Winger to get him. I got him on a smartphone, but I'm working on getting him on this
he is,
technology.
uh,
The
he's
professor.
a very smart man. He's a real smart man. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got
Those are
about a
good brains.
yeah, oh yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. We got about a minute or so, and then we'll start in. But
Okay.
that's the main thing. Why I mean, I was born into this whole industry. I mean, I always say you knew me before I was born. I'm 51 years old, but the younger generation hasn't really been exposed. And when we're at these meetings, there really isn't time to dig in deep like we're going to do today on who the founders were, who's your background, why did you get into real estate, those kind of things. And so it's fascinating. So that's what I really want to Mad or Maggie Bird's the one that kind of coined Meet the Masters, and so I wanted to get it going. So
Oh, that's right. I knew I'd heard that before. That was from Maggie, huh?
oh, great. Ted Blank says he's practicing Zoom with Paul Winger on Saturday.
Oh,
Fantastic.
oh, is that right?
I'm so happy because I've I've been text messaging him and keeping him, he's going through a lot, but praying for him and that. And he's just, I mean, he's like a grandfather to me. He has been so just, I mean, given knowledge, and so forth, and help.
He's a remarkable man.
He is. He is. So, well,
He did a lot of,
yeah. So why don't we start, and then people can join in. But the main purpose, the reason why I got Bob on this is kind of twofold. One, to introduce those people that are newer to this, to creative real estate. I know you've been on our Orange Coast numerous times, and LA and so forth, and people are like, who's this guy with the headphones that's throwing all this crazy stuff at us, and they don't understand. But the funny thing is they're like, can you explain that? And they're really thirsty for this learning. And so want to understand the man behind the brains and the man behind all this, and so forth. So for those that don't know, Bob Steele, one of the founders of the industry, goes way back, a legend in the society. And I know he doesn't like all these names, and so but he is, and has come up with numerous things that we'll get into with the book and so forth. So tell us a little bit about, let's go into yourself. Where did you grow up? Where was your childhood? And
Well, it was Seattle area. I was raised in Seattle, University of Washington. Studied real estate there. It was like kind of like 12 minutes on the Hewlett Packard is the whole major at that time.
What did your parents do for a living?
My dad had his own business. It was in a furnace business where they did air conditioning, more furnace work than air conditioning. That's all.
Okay. And so they weren't in the real estate industry at all?
No, not like your family. No.
Okay.
No.
And so you're in Seattle. Did you have any brothers and sisters, or?
Yeah, one of each.
Okay.
One of each, yeah.
Okay. And did they get into this kind of world of real estate? And
No. I was the only one that kind of drifted into this because I figured it was the most expensive thing I would ever own. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know quite what to do in college. So real estate seemed like a natural, and I had an easy major. And,
So your education, you went to school in that area and stuff. Did you go to college, or did you choose?
University of Washington.
Oh, where did you go?
University of Washington.
Oh, you're a Husky. Huh?
Husky, yeah.
I never knew you're a Husky. All those years I was shouting Bruins at you, UCLA Bruins. Never knew you're a Husky.
Yeah,
wow, interesting. What was your major?
Real estate.
Oh, real estate.
But it wasn't. Yeah, there was the easy rate. It was an easy major. So that was between that and law. I like law also.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know a lot of colleges nowadays that kind of have a major of real estate anymore. It's kind of private schools or what do you call them, specialty schools and so forth. Yeah. And interesting, you played sports, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite pastime?
Well, baseball. I played baseball and football in high school. Okay. And played baseball professionally later on.
So you played professionally. Tell us who you actually played baseball with.
You know, don't you, Michael?
They don't.
Okay. Well, it was way back in 1940. It was either 47 or 48. I was back from the service and went to spring training in Cuba. And at that time, I was with Montreal. And at that time, it was a AAA club. It wasn't a major. And Jackie Robinson was playing at the same time. And he and I both played the same position, second. So I spent a lot of time with him. And he played the first 6 innings. I played the last 3 ball games. So during spring training.
What was he like? What was he?
He was a first class guy. We had 3 fellows on there that were black at the time: Newcomb and Campanelli and Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was a real gentleman. He was a real good guy.
Because he's a Bruin.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, he was a Bruin. You bet he was. He played football there too.
Oh yeah.
He was very good at football.
Yeah.
We had another guy with us that was an athlete, was Chuck Connors. I
Uh-huh.
don't know if you know him, the rifleman.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. Oh, the
he-
rifleman from the TV
yeah,
series.
yeah, he played first base for the second team with me. Yeah, the
Wow.
rifleman. He was a
There's
good
got to be
athlete.
there's got to be a movie in this somewhere, Bob.
Yeah, yeah, he was a good athlete. He played professional basketball too.
Oh, wow.
Connors did. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. That's really interesting. It's
yeah.
interesting. And then you never anticipated Jackie would be who he is today, the legend that broke
No,
that barrier.
no, no. But he was a real first class guy.
That, that
Yeah.
that's great. So how
I'll
did
tell
you?
you a little story about it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we were playing. We flew to Panama for a exhibition game and some exhibition game, and we played in this little town called Mount Mount Hope, I think it was, something like that. And
Hmm.
most of the people were black in that area.
Hmm.
And uh, when he played the first 6 innings of the game against their team, then I played the next 3 innings, and I've never been booed like that in my life. I was replacing Jackie Robinson, and because
Oh,
they
yeah.
all wanted to him, so I really got booed on that deal.
You could say he's the opening act for you.
Yeah. He was
uh,
really good guy. Good guy.
well, so okay, so you grew up in Seattle. You played sports. How did you? I know you touched on it briefly, but what led you to real estate?
Well, it was just that the real estate seemed to be the most expensive thing I would ever buy in my life.
Yeah.
So that seemed like kind of a logical thing when I didn't know what else I really wanted to do at that time.
Your
And
family, was it what kind of, I mean, financial background? Were they middle class
middle
or
class, yeah, middle
middle
class.
class? Okay, so you really you didn't come from the depths, but you didn't come from rich, so you just chose that real estate's you've foresight that real estate's going to be the biggest thing you would own, and you want to get involved. And
Seemed like the logical thing to do, and I enjoyed it. I liked it very much. It was fun. It was
yeah.
mostly like appraising and things like that, different than
Okay.
what we do now.
Well, how did you get? There's real estate, and then there's real estate, as you know.
Yeah.
How did you get from, or I guess you would call it, there's real estate and then there's benefits. So
Yeah.
how did you get into this creative? Because most people that are getting into this real estate world have no idea what we do, no idea.
Right.
I always equate it to a toolbox, and traditional real estate's a hammer, and everybody brings a hammer. But what if you need a screwdriver? What if you need pliers? And we supply the toolbox. So how did you find out that there's a toolbox out there?
Well, there was something I read about a 1031. There was a change in the law going to happen in the tax law. And I thought, well, I just analyzed it and I said, wow, everybody's got to be thinking this someplace in the future. So I started looking around and I finally found a guy that his name was Richard Reno that was doing this. And I
Hmm.
found out he taught classes. And I called a guy named Hunter Quiscard,
Mm.
who you know, Hunter probably.
Mhm.
And he was in he was north of the Bay Area. And he was having a class. So I flew up there and took the class. It was 6 days from Dick Reno. And it was perfect because it was all people oriented in 6 days and really got immersed in it. And somebody told me that retention was only 20%.
Mhm.
So every 6 months I went back and took each class again for 5 times. I figured I'd got to get this. So I did over 2 or 3 years. I took each class repeatedly to learn the subject. Fascinating subject.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, nowadays you lose track. People lose concentration after 10 minutes or even a minute. A 6-day class. I mean, those classes had to be intense. Were they? Or
Yeah, it was philosophy. The philosophy was and Dick only had about 10 or 12 strategies. They're the key to he's a genius. They were the key to the business. And then it's grown since then. And there's been so many just unbelievable people come in to the business. And they've each added so much to it that just by osmosis, most of the people sitting in an exchange meeting know way more than your dad and I did when we started because it hadn't matured like it has now. It's drifted primarily now well, I'll tell you what the problem is underneath. Uh, I got a little deal on my desk. It shows a house that I know the price was 1944. It was
Hmm.
$3,400 in Seattle, a little 2-bedroom brick house. The appraisal on it last year, and I keep track of it, was 866,000. So you think about that, what it is now, it's not the real estate. The real estate, by gold, it should be about 16,000 for that house, but it's 866,000. So underneath this is a real serious problem that most of us don't get. So the roof is still the same, the building's still the same, the benefits are still the same. It's only the difference in that price. So if you take away the price, it's the same house as it was. Whether it's 3,400 or 866,000. So the benefits are what count.
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking the Richard Reno class, and you have what we call, I guess Oprah calls aha moments, and
Uh-huh.
and adventures from there. So how did uh, how this did you launch your career from there? Where you have all this knowledge now, how did you apply it in your beginning stages?
Well, I got started because Dick asked me to do a 3-day class in the
And that's
strategies and
Richard Reno, right?
on the
Okay.
formulas. And
Mhm.
so they interested me, and I found out that, my gosh, there was somebody I was in the LCCs by that time,
Mhm.
and I would say, God, this guy knew how to do that, but over here, 600 miles away or 1,000 miles away, somebody else is coming up with the same idea. So I thought, well, let's put it in a book. And so that's how that got started. Okay. Then I found that, hey, I was really more interested in doing the deal than I was in all the rest of it. I really enjoyed what it did to me personally. So my thought was, instead of trying to concentrate on growing uh, in different ways, what I wanted to do was to expand my own knowledge and make myself grow. So if I did something, then I never did it again. I tried something new. I want to keep trying new things rather than getting one thing and following it. So by doing that, I started doing different things in my life. I sent my kids on college boats going around the world to teach them. It was bigger than Newport Beach. And so I tried never to do the same thing. And so eventually I was accumulating knowledge by my mistakes, really, because when you're trying new things, you're missing. You're not getting it right all the time. But I found then that holy smokes, the world is endless. There's no end to what we can do. You take one of Dick's formulas, any one of them, from unpriced to creation of wealth or any of the rest, and it's totally unending. There's no end to where that can go.
Well,
Unbelievable.
you just mentioned the word formula, and there's a lot of people that know those answers, but a lot of new people. So why don't you define what we call a formula and what we call a strategy really quick?
Well, it's Dick. Dick started one called Creation of Wealth. That's the easiest to think about. And then that gentleman, and we were talking on with Val at that meeting today about the hemp program. One of the strategies or formulas that we used was the creation of wealth. So we took that into the agriculture. The first time I really got sidetracked from the deal, and we put it into agriculture. So we said, why not trade future crops? And so that's a creation of wealth, something that's coming in the future. So we started, and the one that's in the book is the one that you came up with, sent back to me today, was number 76, where we were trading future tomato crops for buildings today. And that one was a little $2
So,
million building.
so your strategy is what it is you're in a deal, and what you're trying to do is either look at the different profit centers or different benefits of a property, or how to overcome an obstacle, and you strategize, and then once you implement a strategy and it closes or it works, it graduates to a formula. Is that kind of
Well, I don't know where the nomenclature, which would be the proper one. Uh, um, the that one was one that we just started from because it was a situation. We had somebody with a $4 million building that wanted out. We had somebody that didn't have any money, but they had a tomato crop. So we traded the future tomatoes for the building. And every year he got paid with tomatoes. $4 million or $2 million. I think it was 2 million. Yeah, something like that. But
Interesting.
now in the
Okay.
hemp, right now in the hemp, let me mention this.
Sure.
This was it's really interesting because today it's like a cryptocurrency or anything else that's new. Here we have hemp that's kind of new to the market. And the one that we're working with now is going to be the biggest hemp grower, if he gets it done right, in the United States. And the crop was like $360 million worth of future crops, which are ready to trade now. They're not growing yet, but we're willing to trade those into the marketplace. Yeah, so it's just it's an unending formula. You could take any kind of thing that grows and do that.
And we have a couple questions here, and what I wanted to, it was, I think it's Ari that was asking, and this is what he's talking about, Ari, the book. Of course, it has my mug on it, but Bob put my picture on it there. But it's Steele 300, 300 ways, and now we're actually up to more than 300 formulas, and we'll get into that in the future. Let's see here, my video disappeared for some reason. Another question was, are you able to trade hemp futures?
Well, I'm not sure what they mean by that. The crops we can trade.
Okay.
And we're willing to do that right now. That's what we're doing in this particular instance. The crops are legal, but right now the banks can't loan on the crops. It's in Congress, I understand, but they can't loan on the crops yet. So we need in that deal, we need $2 or $3 million to buy seeds, is what it's for. But they're special. But yes, you could trade that right now. We're willing to trade crops in the future right now.
Okay.
Right.
Well, let's go back to so the Richard Reno days and so forth. Now, we mentioned these groups. It's the alphabet soup. SCC, NCE, OCE, all sorts of stuff, and these are groups. Now,
Pardon? Can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now.
Okay. These groups, SEC, NCE,
right.
The formation of these groups, did they all come out of the Richard Reno thinking? What are these groups, and who is the early groups?
Well, the way it started, the first one was Bill Broadbent in San Luis Obispo, is the one that started the first subgroup, so to speak. But then what we started to do in Los Angeles area was we would have Dick Reno come in and teach a class, and we placed him in different sections of the area, Orange County, San Diego, all the different places, and maybe once or twice a year. And out of every class that he taught, we had a new president picked out that would form an exchange group out of that class. So that's how all the exchange groups were formed throughout Los Angeles area. And then that spread across the nation, and others. And Florida was really instrumental too. They did a lot of deals down there. But they came out of the Richard Reno class. And then Madge Davis, was in Orange Coast, made a deal in Southern California called SCORE, where the president of each of these groups would pick two of the top people in the top exchangers.
There you go.
Himself, herself, and I'll be darned. Yeah, that's Madge. She's a sweetheart. And then they would have a meeting every 90 days. They had a SCORE meeting of those top exchangers. That later morphed into NCE. It was moved to Las Vegas when we quit the Cliff Weaver and Dick Reno and I started a deal called Real Estate Expo. Mm-hmm. And we got it up to 3,000 people for a week at a time, and every year in Las Vegas. And when Cliff died, we had a meeting in Tahiti, a class, and Cliff was teaching it, hyperventilated when he was scuba diving and died. So he died, and Dick wanted to quit, so we sold it. But then later, when that phased out, about 10 years later, NCE came. Well, at that time, it was a group out of Orange County that
Mhm.
went over and called them, and they formed it out of NCE came out of that SCORE group and formed in Las Vegas when we vacated.
Well, you had a group. You had a group out of Newport Beach that you actually shared a offices. It was yourself, Madge Davis, Don DeBow. I think Hunter was there. I think my dad in the beginning stages when he was 18 years old was in there. A couple others, and it was basically a brainstorming group, wasn't it? A mastermind group.
Mike, I don't know why other people don't do this, but there was, and I forget how many, maybe 8 of us.
Hmm.
Then they at the one of the Irvine on Birch Street. So we rented an office that had 8 separate offices to it, and we had a couple of secretaries, but they were all independent real estate exchangers, all within this deal. It was unbelievable. You could list a property and walk down the hall and get rid of it. I mean, it was so simple. And we had a nice big meeting room, and so and it went. I think we were there for maybe 5 years, but it was unbelievable. It was just a great. I don't know why more people don't do that.
You
But
could do that. I
that's
mean,
it's a perfect way. Perfect
I
way.
think people don't talk to each other anymore. I think that's what makes our groups like the Society, NCE, Orange Coast. I think that's what makes them so special is we get together every other month, every 2 months, whatever, and we build those relationships. And yeah, we're not seeing each other every day, but I could pick up the phone and call any of these guys, and you build that
Uh,
relationship.
and
Yeah,
I think your Zoom and things like that are really going to help. It's really
yeah,
going to help. But
yeah.
it is a great way to run an office. I'll tell you, it really
Yeah.
works.
So these meetings took off, and in the whole industry and meet our groups grew all across the country, and the society and NCE, and then you had local groups across the Orange Coast and so forth, and this industry was launched. Why do you think that? I remember growing up when I don't know what age I was, but it was the Orange Coast was at the airport or in. And I would
Yeah.
remember that I was a runner at the time. I don't know how old I was, but I remember lines about 200 to 300 people deep waiting to get into the room because the room was packed. And you guys, there was no meeting book, but you would hand out the sheets. You would have a table you go by. Why do you think that doesn't exist anymore? Why do you think, I mean, we do have our meetings, but why hasn't it blossomed our industry into this whole creative world?
Well, I wondered about that myself, Mike, but it started to change. And so I kind of got out. I thought that I would, but I don't know why. I don't know why it changed. Starker came along and the 1031 came along, and that money kept getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So there was more of it. So they didn't have to. Uh, we used to do 2 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways. Well, those disappeared when the 1031 came along, and they came out of that's really one strategy, and it's 2 sales, but it's one strategy, and I think that changed a lot of it because they went to the 1031, and there was no need to. And when the 1031 goes away, it'll probably come back. But that was about the time that I said, okay, I'm gonna leave for a while. So that's when we started living in other countries and doing different things. But it did change quite a bit.
Well, I think
How that
traditional real Well, I think traditional real estate too is kind of everybody. I can't stand that saying "out of the box" because the only
Yeah.
box that exists is the one you put yourself in. But I think traditional real estate, has forced everybody into this box of cash sale, and they don't realize that actually they're exchanging because the cash is a Federal Reserve note, and you're exchanging it for equity,
Yeah.
and you're actually doing an exchange. I know it skipped generations, and I think with the success over the last 10 years of NCE, the Society, Orange Coast, we're finally getting younger generations in again, and it's not like they're thirsty for education. They're spending $10,000, $20,000 on these seminars going, trying to learn, then they walk out with all these CDs and tapes, but it doesn't really teach them anything. And so the when they hear about our kind of groups and they get involved, they are just ecstatic. And but then when
Mm.
but then when it comes to talking to their brokers about how do I do this deal, the brokers kind of shy them away from it and turn them away. So it,
It's remarkable, and the brain power, the guys that are in this thing, it's just remarkable some of the things they've done. It's just unbelievable.
it is.
You know, it really is. And
Yeah.
when we went into the international part of it, it was really fun because, like when we lived in Spain, we had a beautiful place. We were able to rent for almost nothing, a huge villa above the Mediterranean. But my deal was with them for that as long as I covered the gardener and the gardeners and the maids, that I could have the house because I could take it. So I had this beautiful house, but they had a contingency that I couldn't have overnight guests. So I
Mm.
had to rent another apartment for all the exchangers.
Mm.
And so we had all kinds of exchangers coming in to stay for a week or two at a time, and I was making deals, and it worked out fine. So then we carried that on into London and different places where we went. Panama, same thing. I had dozens when we lived in Panama last. We had dozens of exchangers coming down. It was great.
What do you think the biggest, we talk about, most of us are United States, me included. And I know you've been trying to draw me out because the world is huge and we're just a little island on the world. What what's the big difference between real estate outside the United States versus inside the United States?
Everybody puts their pants on the same way. Exactly the same thing. People, they're exactly the same. They have the same anxieties, the same hurts. The difference is that you have a whole different sets of laws that you can work with and be legal. So you can do things that you can't do, and just like we said before, with gambling in Nevada and not in California. There's nothing wrong, they're just laws. But it seems like to me that when you open up the world, it's just unbelievable. Uh, There's oysters, there's just thousands of things that they to be done. And the only people that know how to do it are in the room in the United States. And it just seems ridiculous that we don't get outside. That's all. Because the moment you or somebody else lives in another country, so we have confidence in the country, then you watch it happen now, though, with Zoom and so forth. You'll have people all over the world because there's no reason to stay in one country. The saying is that never live in the country you're born in, never have real estate in that country or the country you're living in. Always have your real estate in third worlds. So now you've got total freedom. It's an unbelievable way to, I think that's the future. You
Well, that's
asked
what
about how,
isn't that one of your formulas? Uh, have your when you have a child, have them
yeah,
dual citizens.
that's
Uh,
one of the first
United
ones
States,
in my,
yeah, United States, you can't become a dual citizen if you're a United States citizen, but you have your child born outside the country and have them become a dual citizen.
yeah, that's the easiest way to, it really makes all kinds of sense. Instead of having your child born in the United States, have it born in another country that you want it born in. So now they got two identities. You don't know where they'll take it. But I had all my kids going to college boat when they were sophomores in college, just to teach them that the world is bigger than Newport Beach, you know.
Mhm.
And now they'll say that there's not a day in their life goes by, but what they allude to that some way, you know. So they think internationally. It's, it's such an easy way to think, Mark.
Right,
It
right.
really is.
It's all benefits driven and so forth. So where do you think uh, where do you think we're heading? Where do you think, in the industry? I know we're looking short term in this last couple months, but I'm talking, forget this last couple months. Where do you think real estate is going?
I'd like to have another 100 years because I think it's going to be just a lot of fun. And the thing is, if somebody will just add one new thing to themselves and I think the international, you can't stop it. There's no way to stop it. And there's no way to stop this knowledge now that you got Zoom and so forth. So you're going to have people we can print our book in other languages. I did them for Steve Cropper when he was in Vietnam, and we did a special book for him. Just took the international book and Reno's book and stuff like. Converted it in no time to a different language, and he had exchange groups. He had Orange Coast exchange groups. I can send you pictures of it in Vietnam with
Hmm.
the same. You look
I
all
remember
same.
that. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable. Because Steve took the, but what we had to do, and I'm convinced of it, you have to take the knowledge out. You can't bring him in and teach him. You have to have somebody that already steeped in it that moves out. You can't go the other way. They can't come in and learn because they won't come often enough. You have to live in it. So if somebody knows, particularly if you know another language, and you want to have some fun, go to that other country and open up your exchange group right now. Because with the Zoom and everything, he would have people in that meeting right away that spoke the language and everything else. It would be so easy to open the world now. I tried to get FCC. Mary Lee finally got it. I don't think she ever got it now. I tried repetitively to get set up meetings someplace in Europe for us, and I couldn't get it. But when we were all there, we had meetings in Mexico, we had them in Tahiti, we had them in California, or Canada. We had guys that wanted to move out. So I think now the best way is somebody that's a little bit entrepreneurial and wants to travel, doesn't want to travel, wants to live. Pick a country you'd like to live in. If you got the knowledge, take the knowledge with you and get that oyster pearl started. I know that's the way to do it because I've done it the other way. I've knocked on every door in England, and there's a group called FIAPSI. It's out of France. It's an acronym, and it's George John Alanis, and I belong to that. But it was an international exchange group of real estate guys and gals, and it was very, very good, really good people. But nobody had the knowledge. It was like wasting your time because nobody had the knowledge. So you got to get the knowledge first and take it out. But if you've got knowledge and you want to have some fun in life, take that exchange knowledge, get out there with your computer and open up a country for us. And you watch the people go through that channel. This will open up in no time now, I think.
Yeah,
I
we had a
really,
question. Yeah, the Steel 300 Mac, the Steel 300 book is written by Bob. There were a few people that he put the picture on the cover to help in certain areas and stuff, and Stuart Watkins is one of them. So yeah, it is. But the Steel 300 book is Bob, and that leads us to the future as well. The Steel 300, we named it Steel 300 because of 300 formulas. We implemented that, it's almost 10 years ago, and we started having some Steel 300 meetings. And the biggest difference between our meetings and all the rest of the meetings, and Orange Coast has adopted this a little bit, is one, you didn't have to be a license to attend. You could have international properties. We tried making it where cash was not presented. It was more of equities and getting creativeness. But then it kind of, for one reason or the other, it kind of, we were missing little bits and pieces. And then we were also starting the Steel 300 education, but we never really got off the ground. So this technology really is what the missing piece was that Bob and I were looking for in the get-go. And because Bob can't travel as much and so forth. And it makes it a lot easier to educate in that. Am I right, Bob?
oh, absolutely. There's unbelievable minds available now and all kinds of subject matter that could be really, really open up the world of exchanging. It really could.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so what we're planning, just a little tidbit, but we won't go into too much, is we're going to probably relaunch the Steel 300 and have an education platform, and it'll be virtual, and we probably will have some actual marketing meetings as well in the future, and so forth. But for the most part, the reason why we did this is to introduce Bob or reintroduce Bob to new people and people you haven't seen in a while of course, we haven't seen anybody in the last 3 or 4 months except for our the
Right.
people we're fighting with inside our four walls.
Yeah.
Depending on who you are, it's either your spouse or your spouse and your kids or whatever. I'm surprised I've gone a half hour without any screaming in the house right now. But further than that, the people that aren't able to travel as much anymore, or don't want to travel as much, and so we're definitely going to be launching an education and so forth. And also, I want to get some of the other people on here to uh, to bring their minds out to the to the group and so forth. Yeah.
Mike, we might ask too, if anybody is interested in living in other countries or expanding the international part of this, please get in touch with us because it's a beautiful avenue. It's a wonderful way to live. You just have more darn fun and you got friends all over the world. You meet some
Yeah.
great people.
Does anybody have any questions for Bob that you could put in the chats before we wrapped it up? Any chats? By the way, while we're waiting for any questions in the chat, what we'll probably do in the next couple weeks or so is we'll go back on with Bob, and what we're going to do is get some creativity. We'll take a property or two, and we'll
Okay.
structure some deals, and we'll take some profit centers out and throw some formulas at it and stuff.
Can I
Let's see
mention
here.
one more thing, Mike?
Sure.
Okay, I mentioned one fellow named Robert Baines, and he's been to Orange Coast, he's been to SEC. But Robert was an exchange broker from Alaska. He's an attorney, and we got involved in Spain, and he kept visiting us, and he's on our board there. But Bob and I met in, I think, now 11 countries or something. He made a deal. We both agreed that barter was a big part of the exchange business when you go international. You get away from a lot of the laws, but barter was big. So Bob ended up going with a company out of New York. He ended up trading 10,000 rooms, hotel rooms in North Africa. He traded Ford cars in different parts of the world. Enormous deals. He did one deal he made, I think the commission was 13 million, all from these same strategies that we use here, but used in the international world. That's all. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
What I'm doing is answering a few questions here, and they're talking about different pricing. We have different pricing, so we're working on a bunch of different strategies with the book and so forth, and we have some updates that we're working on with forms with a national company and so forth on real estate forms. But what we're talking about is possibly if you acquire the book, you also acquire a certain amount of time mentoring one-on-one virtually here. There's all sorts of different things we're going to be working on and so forth. So and so forth. Blake, we're on a webinar style, so it's not the other type where it's like the meeting and stuff. But we'll work on that too. But it's on the webinar style and so forth. But Bob also comes to our Orange Coast meeting and other meetings as well. And so, we have these people that the creativity's there. You just got to reach out and ask about it and so forth. And our next Orange Coast meeting is January 5th. Everybody's invited to it. It's turned into a national meeting. And actually international, right? It's international and so forth. But yeah, any other questions? Somebody asked was let's see, it's getting how do you know about, or do you know about monetizing installment sales?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. There's other people that know how to do that, Cliff Strand, and there's a couple others as well that could answer and so forth. Let's see. Yeah, they're mostly talking about the Steel 300 and stuff. And we're going to work on also an electronic version as well. And like I said, we're going to be implementing some new stuff that just arose in the last couple of days from a person that we didn't expect to show interest. So it was quite exciting, but we'll get into that. So All right. Well, anyways, why don't we, any ending thoughts, Bob, at all, or?
Well, I can't, the one thing we can do too is we can put the book into languages if somebody wants to get started in another country. And I think that's, Mike, when we used to do the exchange in Las Vegas,
Mhm.
and I ran the international roundtable. It got so big that we had sometimes 200 or 300 people at that round. We had to move outside to the pool just to get enough room for people. So underneath this all is a huge international beat going on that should be recognized. And we used to have international meetings at the LA airport. And we had people from all over the West Coast coming in for that meeting with, the difference is when you present a foreign property at a normal marketing session, you lose 90% of the audience. But when you have a meeting that's just international, you get the whole audience. So you can't kind of, you don't want to present at a normal meeting, you don't want to present the international. But there is a huge market coming. It's going to be enormous. You're
How
going
do
to be
how
flooded.
do how do they, Bob? We have a question from Sharon. How do they get in touch with you to find out about international real estate opportunities?
Come through you because uh, my
Okay. Okay. So
I'm in the SEC book. Yeah.
I'll put my email address, or you could also you know he's in the SEC book and so forth, and you could we'll get it to you. And anyways, well, I appreciate you spending this time, Bob. It was a really nice pleasure. I mean, we've always talked business and stuff. We've never really sat down and so forth and talked. So I appreciate it. And Ron Moser says hi. I told you a couple people popped out of nowhere and saying, "Oh my gosh!" Like even at today's BALS meeting in LA, a couple people, are like, "Oh, I took your class." Makes you feel young when they say they took your class 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So, anyways, and all right, well, great. Blake says he loves you, and everybody's saying thank you. So I appreciate Bob, and I appreciate everybody coming on, and look for our future broadcasts and so forth. If you'd like to also be included in the Orange Coast meeting, send me an email. I put my email in the list, and then we'll be having future with Bob and I, and maybe some guests on as well, and doing some formulas and as we launch Steel 300. So, all right.
Mike, God bless you for
God
what
bless you.
you're doing.
Thank you. All right. Take care, Bob. Bye.
Bye bye.